Based on the object of meditation, samatha can be divided into three basic types: meditation with an external object, meditation without an external object, and meditation on the essential nature of phenomena. When first practicing samatha, you try to make the mind stable and clear. But since you are not accustomed to meditation, you may lose the meditative state. Therefore, at the beginning, you need an object to meditate on. Just as a child needs to learn the alphabet before reading a book, at first you learn to meditate with an object and gradually progress to meditating without one. The first type of meditation is meditation with an object. Place a small piece of wood or stone in front of you and focus your mind on it. When practicing this meditation, you should maintain the right degree of tension, that is, the proper amount of concentration, neither too tight nor too loose. As the great accomplished master Saraha said, meditation should be like a Brahmin's thread. In the past, the work of the Brahmin caste was making threads. To produce a good thread, one must apply the right amount of force. If the force is too great, the thread would break. If too weak, the thread would tangle. To develop mental stability, begin by focusing your attention on an object. At first, use an impure object. Later, introduce a pure object, such as a Buddha's statue, a deity's insignia, or a special seed syllable. The purpose of meditating on a pure object is not to cultivate devotion or compassion. You simply rest your mind on it to develop concentration. In the beginning, use a piece of wood or stone because it has no complex features. A Buddha image, however, has various features such as eyes and ears, which can easily distract you. In China, the common method for beginners is to watch the breath. The second type of samatha is meditation without an external object. The mind turns inward and focuses on a mental image of the Buddha in the form of a yidam deity, such as Avalokiteshvara. You can mentally place the image above your head, in front of you, or visualize yourself as the deity. In the beginning, since it is difficult to visualize the entire form, you can first visualize the deity's hands, then eyes, then clothes, and so on. Visualizing only the parts is called meditation on the parts of an entire object. By practicing this again and again, you will eventually be able to visualize the entire form of the deity. Next, you will see all parts of the deity in a general way. To practice this deity meditation, one must first practice the first type of meditation by gazing at the image of a deity. Place the deity image in front of you and look at it continuously and slowly, observing the face, crown, ornaments, and so on. For new meditators, it is necessary to look at Buddha images often. This is why we place Buddha images. By gazing at a deity's image again and again, you gradually imprint it in your mind, just as you can recall your mother's face when you think of her. Generally, you can bring your mother's appearance to mind, but not necessarily that of others, right? Since you grew up seeing her constantly, it is easier to visualize her. You can bring her image to mind instantly because you have seen her so often. This principle is straightforward. Similarly, after frequently looking at Buddha images, while practicing the second type of meditation, you can visualize the deity above your head or in the space before you. Even without a physical image, you can mentally draw the form. Through such repeated practice, you will eventually be able to visualize the entire form of the deity. You will see all parts of the deity in a general way. So, you have a general impression of the entire form. This is called visualization of the complete object. Some individuals expect to get a very clear image of the deity during meditation. When this does not happen, they become disappointed. The eye or visual faculty has the visual consciousness that sees things extremely clearly. Eyes can see. However, in meditation, you use mental consciousness, the sixth consciousness. When using mental consciousness, one gains a general impression of things, or a general idea or meaning of things. Hence, one cannot get as clear a perception as when using visual consciousness. Therefore, you should not expect to visualize the deity as clearly as if looking at a picture. Do not worry about the clarity of the image, because the purpose of this meditation is not to get a clear image, but to focus the mind on the image so that the mind becomes still and stable. This means that when meditating on a deity, it is not necessary to visualize with extreme clarity, just as the images in dreams are not as clear as those seen in waking life. In dreams, however, mental vision can still be quite clear and more stable than in meditation. If one can visualize with such high clarity, it is certainly better, but there is no need to worry about it. Ordinary people cannot visualize with extreme clarity. They can only form a general impression, which is sufficient. Master Bodhibhadra said that there are two kinds of samatha. Samatha that is focused externally and samatha that is focused internally. Externally focused samatha is the ordinary kind that focuses on a stone or other object, and the special type of samatha focuses on a statue or image of the Buddha. Internally focused samatha consists of two types: meditation of the body and meditation based on the body. Meditation of the body involves visualizing oneself as the deity, with all their ornaments and qualities, or visualizing oneself as a skeleton meditation. Meditation based on the body involves focusing on something within the body, such as the breath, energy channels, inner light rays, or the feeling of bliss. Great masters have provided many types of meditation instructions, but we can classify them into two categories: meditation with an external object and meditation without an external object. Examples of the second type include breath meditation and skeleton meditation, which we practice regularly. In skeleton meditation, one first looks at an actual skeleton and later visualizes oneself as a skeleton. Through consistent practice, one can eliminate attachment. Our daily practice on multiplicity follows a similar pattern. By regularly listening to the teachings, you gradually learn to reflect on the composite nature of every sentient being you see. Recognize that their aggregate of form is composite, composed of earth, water, fire, and wind, that their aggregate of feeling is composite, their aggregate of perception is composite, and so on. Meditate on each of these aspects in this way. This also belongs to the second type of meditation. Put what you have learned into practice, such as the composite nature, to eliminate self-grasping. Moreover, contemplate momentary arising and ceasing. Observe how an object arises and ceases from moment to moment. One moment it ceases, the next moment it arises anew. When reflecting on the momentary arising and ceasing of phenomena, we can also apply the second type of meditation. In one moment, a thing appears in this way. In the next moment, it undergoes another round of arising and ceasing. Ceasing means the object passes away, and in the following moment it arises again. It is like watching a movie. 24 frames flash by per second. Each frame, slightly different from the previous one, represents a round of arising and ceasing. This belongs to the second type of meditation. However, it is just a form of samatha that lacks wisdom. The third type of samatha meditation is resting in the essence. After meditating on an external object and then an internal object, we shall rest the mind in the essential nature. In this type of meditation, the mind does not focus on any particular object, but abides in a completely stable and unwavering state. When we speak of the mind, we often regard it as a single entity. However, the Buddha described the mind as a collection of 6 or 8 different kinds of consciousness. In summary, the 5 sense consciousnesses consist of eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, and body consciousness. Visual consciousness perceives visual forms. Auditory consciousness perceives sounds through the ear. Olfactory consciousness perceives smells through the nose. Gustatory consciousness perceives taste through the tongue. Tactile consciousness perceives touch and physical sensations. These 5 sense consciousnesses are said to be non-conceptual. They simply see, hear, smell, taste, and feel without involving thoughts such as this is good or this is bad. They just experience sensations. So, when they are active, one can still maintain concentration. As Telapa instructed Naropa, appearances do no harm, but attachment to them causes problems. Seeing or hearing things does not disrupt meditation because these consciousnesses are non-conceptual. Hearing sounds or seeing things does not undermine meditation. What obstructs meditation is developing attachment to a form, sound, and so on. So, there is no need to eliminate these sensations during meditation. We may experience sensorial perceptions during meditation. For example, we might hear sounds, but that's okay. It doesn't disrupt your meditation. However, if you arouse attachment, emotion, aversion, or discrimination toward the sound, you have a problem. Hearing sounds does not impact your meditation. Before the Buddha's time, Indians believed that there is only one consciousness. This single consciousness functioned like a house with 5 or 6 windows, inside which there is a monkey. Sometimes the monkey would look out from one window, then from another. Hence, from the outside, it appeared as if there were different monkeys at different windows. But in reality, there was always only one monkey. Ancient people believed there is a single self functioning. I see, I hear. This is a non-Buddhist view, and it is also how ordinary people think. Before studying the Dharma, one typically believes that it is always I who hears, sees, eats, and touches, that all experiences are my sensations. Ancient Indian philosophers said that this house is like our mind, and these windows are like different sensory consciousnesses. They believed that there is only one consciousness, just as there is only one monkey in the house. However, the Buddha said that there isn't just one consciousness, because if there were, when one sees something, one wouldn't be able to hear sounds. And when one hears a sound, one wouldn't be able to smell, and so on. In fact, we can see, hear, taste, smell, and feel physical sensations at the same time. In other words, these 8 consciousnesses can function concurrently. Hence, there are 5 distinct consciousnesses, not just one. The Buddha said that our 8 consciousnesses can function simultaneously. The 7th consciousness operates as self-grasping. The 6th consciousness discriminates. The first 5 consciousnesses can also function concurrently, and the 8th consciousness functions as well. Each consciousness functions, and countless mental factors can also function. The functions of the mind are so subtle, making it possible to give rise to countless emanations. Since consciousness can perform so many functions, it indicates that after uprooting self-grasping, one can manifest in infinite forms. Besides the 8 consciousnesses, we also have countless mental factors that can function simultaneously. While seeing something, we can also feel anger, activating many mental factors like wholesome and unwholesome ones. Each mental factor is also a function. The mind has many functions, which is why it is called composite. Consider our 5 aggregates. The physical body is changing. The aggregate of feeling experiences sensations. The aggregate of mental formations includes numerous mental factors, and there are also the aggregates of perception and consciousness. All of these can function simultaneously. How fascinating the functions of the mind are. Those who haven't eradicated self-grasping cannot imagine that one can manifest multiple bodies, like Sun Wukong. The Buddha can even emanate infinite forms beyond our comprehension. When meditating, one does not rely on any of the 5 non-conceptual consciousnesses that are used to experience sight, sound, smell, taste, or touch. In meditation, only two consciousnesses are involved: unstable consciousness and stable consciousness. In unstable consciousness, often called mental consciousness, all kinds of thoughts arise. At times, one feels attraction and happiness. At other times, one may feel dislike, unhappiness, and so on. This is our normal consciousness. Then, there is the stable consciousness that remains completely unaffected by good or bad thoughts, pleasant or unpleasant experiences. The clarity of this stable consciousness remains the same in the morning, at noon, and at night. It is also called the ground consciousness or alaya consciousness. Additionally, there is a third type of consciousness called afflicted consciousness. It is also called the manas consciousness, the deliberating consciousness, the cogitating consciousness, the continuous consciousness, or the discriminating consciousness. These are all names for the seventh consciousness. It lacks clarity, always in a deluded state with the thought and feeling of I. The eighth consciousness and the first five consciousnesses don't create karma or generate afflictions. The afflicted consciousness primarily refers to the manas consciousness. Whether the mind is distracted or not, the thought of I or self is always present. The sixth consciousness has conceptual self-grasping, while the seventh consciousness has innate self-grasping. Thus, both generate afflictions. As long as one has self-grasping, one remains in a state of ignorance. This notion of I or self is always present. It is a thought, an attachment. This is a very subtle clinging to the self. Whether we are aware of it or not, it is always there. Whether the sixth consciousness recognizes its self-grasping or not, this self-grasping is always present. Whether you notice it or not, it constantly generates attachment. No matter what we are doing, even in sleep, this subtle self-grasping is always there. When sleeping without dreams, self-grasping is still active. Even in complete unconsciousness, it remains present. Innate self-grasping is deeply rooted. When one hears a sound, a subtle reaction may arise. Oh, this is dangerous to me. It is present all the time. Until one attains arhatship or Buddhahood, all beings have this subtle self-grasping. Therefore, it is also called the lasting consciousness, since the five sensory consciousnesses are constantly changing. This is what we often refer to as the seventh consciousness. In summary, there are 8 consciousnesses, 5 sensory consciousnesses, what we call the first 5 consciousnesses, and 3 mental consciousnesses. The author categorized them in this way.